The last time FIFA fundamentally redesigned the World Cup was 1998. In France that summer, the tournament expanded from 24 teams to 32 teams, 8 groups of 64 matches, and the format that an entire generation of football fans grew up considering simply the way things are. It remained unchanged for 28 years across 7 tournaments. Now it has changed, and the scale of that change is larger than most people have fully absorbed. The 2026 World Cup in North America features 48 teams, 12 groups of 4, 104 matches, a 39-day tournament spread across 16 host cities in the United States, Canada, and Mexico, a brand new knockout stage, the round of 32 that has never existed at a men's FIFA World Cup before. A maximum of 8 matches for the team that lifts the trophy, one more than any previous world champion has needed to play. This is not a minor adjustment. This is the biggest structural change to the tournament in the modern era. Welcome to everything about football. This is how the new 48-team format works, and what it genuinely means for the football. The new format explained. Let us start with the mechanics because they matter. 48 teams are divided into 12 groups of 4. Every team plays the other 3 sides in their group exactly once. Each team is therefore guaranteed a minimum of 3 matches at the World Cup, regardless of results, exactly as under the previous 32-team format. The top 2 teams in each of the 12 groups qualify automatically for the knockout stage. That is 24 teams. The 8 best third-place teams across all 12 groups also advance, ranked by points, then goal difference, then goals scored. That brings the knockout stage to 32 teams. Those 32 teams then compete in the round of 32, a stage that has never existed at this tournament before. From there, the competition runs as a standard single elimination bracket, round of 16, quarterfinals, semifinals, third-place match, and the final on the 19th of July at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. Under the old format, 64 matches were played across 8 groups with 32 teams. Under the new format, 104 matches are played across 12 groups with 48 teams. That is 40 additional matches, a 62.5% increase in the total number of games. The tournament runs for 39 days, 7 days longer than the 32-day format used in Qatar in 2022. FIFA initially considered 3-team groups of 16 before deciding on 12 groups of 4. The decision to maintain 4-team groups was described as being driven by considerations of sporting integrity, player welfare, and competitive balance. The 3-team format was dropped because it created scenarios where teams could mathematically collude in their final group game. 4-team groups preserve the integrity of simultaneous final fixtures. Who benefits? The nations that were never here before. The most significant sporting consequence of the expansion is also the most straightforward. 16 more nations at the World Cup, and for the first time in history, 4 of those nations have never been at a World Cup before. Curaçao, Cape Verde, Jordan, Uzbekistan. 4 nations making their World Cup debut in 2026. Each of them qualified through a genuinely competitive process. Each of them represents a football community that has never experienced this moment. Curaçao is the smallest nation by population in the history of the World Cup, approximately 156,000 people. They qualified through CONCACAF, beating out Costa Rica and Honduras, nations with far more established World Cup histories, in the qualifying process. Their appearance in North America is a sporting achievement of genuine significance. The Confederation allocation shift is equally important to understand. Under the old 32-team format, Africa received 5 spots. Under the new 48-team format, Africa receives 9 direct spots plus 1 playoff place. Asia moves from 4.5 to 8 direct spots plus 1 playoff place. Oceania, which previously had to compete in intercontinental playoffs to qualify, now has a guaranteed direct spot for the first time. This matters beyond the symbolic. More spots means more nations with sustained involvement in World Cup cycles, more qualification campaigns, more investment in football infrastructure, more generations of young players growing up watching their national team compete on the biggest stage. The expansion's long-term impact on the development of football in Africa and Asia will likely be felt for decades. The round of 32, a brand new stage. The round of 32 is the most visible structural innovation of the new format. It has never existed at a men's FIFA World Cup before. Under the old format, 16 teams advanced from the group stage to the round of 16, which was also the first knockout round. A team that finished third in their group went home, regardless of how many points they had accumulated or how competitive their performances had been. Under the new format, 8 of those third-place teams survive. They join the 24 group stage qualifiers in the round of 32. This creates a new dynamic in the final group match of every group. Under the old format, a team that had lost its first 2 matches was mathematically eliminated before the final game. Under the new format, a team that has lost its first 2 matches can still advance if it wins the final game and the results elsewhere are favorable. No team is mathematically dead until the last group match is completed. This has a genuine competitive consequence. It means more matches at the group stage with meaningful stakes for every team involved. It reduces the number of dead rubber matches, games where qualification has already been decided before a ball is kicked, that critics of previous World Cups have identified as a weakness in the old format. It also creates a new tactical dimension. The 8 best third-place teams advance, ranked across all 12 groups. This means a team that knows it is finishing third can play the final group game with an eye on the cross-group standings, trying to maximize goal difference or goals scored in order to rank above the other third-place teams from other groups. It is a complexity that the old format never produced. More matches, more chaos, 104 matches. For the neutral, this is straightforwardly good news. More matches means more football, more opportunities for upsets, more moments that define careers and nations. The 2026 World Cup will produce more goals, more dramatic finishes, more last-minute qualifications, more heartbreak and more euphoria than any previous edition of the tournament, simply because it has 40 additional matches in which those things can occur. The expansion also creates a structural advantage for teams with depth. Under the old format, a team needed to field their strongest 11 for 6 matches across a maximum of 32 days. Under the new format, a team that reaches the final needs to field their strongest 11 for 8 matches across 39 days. The additional rest days between matches help. The format is designed so that every team has at least 3 days between fixtures, but the cumulative load is greater. Teams with squad depth, France, Spain, England, Brazil, Argentina, are structurally better placed to handle this than smaller nations. A team like Curaçao or Jordan does not have 3 midfielders of comparable quality. They have 1, maybe 2. Rotation is a luxury of depth. Nations without depth will feel the additional matches more acutely. This is one of the genuine competitive criticisms of the expanded format. It may inadvertently favor the established football powers whose squad depth was already their advantage, reinforcing the hierarchy rather than disrupting it. Player welfare, the honest conversation. The player welfare conversation is legitimate and the numbers behind it are real. A report by the Football Benchmark Group, using data from the FIFPro player workload monitoring platform, highlighted the specific problem. The World Cup finalists will now be required to play up to 8 matches across a 38-day period. This comes immediately after the European club season, following consecutive summers of major international and club competitions, including the Nations League, the Copa America, the Africa Cup of Nations, and the expanded Club World Cup. Most of the top European leagues begin their 2026-27 season approximately 1 month after the World Cup final. That leaves players with a short off-season to recover from both injury and accumulated fatigue. For elite players competing at the highest level of club football for 9 or 10 months before the World Cup, the additional load of an extended tournament is a real physical concern. FIFA has introduced mandatory 3-minute hydration breaks in every match at the 2026 tournament to address concerns about extreme temperatures at certain host venues. This is a direct response to player welfare concerns raised during the qualification process. The breaks are mandatory regardless of weather conditions, a structural acknowledgement that the cumulative physical demands of this tournament require mitigation. The concern is not hypothetical. The evidence from recent seasons shows that several elite players, Rodrigo, Xavi Simons, Hugo Ekitike, suffered serious injuries during the final weeks of the club season that ruled them out of the World Cup entirely. Whether the expanded format increases the risk of similar injuries during the tournament itself remains an open question. But it is a question that needs to be asked honestly. The quality question. And finally, the debate that generates the most heat and the least light. Does the expanded format dilute the quality of the World Cup? The concern is logical. 48 teams means weaker teams. Weaker teams means mismatched group stage fixtures. Mismatched fixtures means one-sided scorelines. One-sided scorelines means less compelling football. The argument leads you to a tournament where Germany plays Curaçao and the result is known before a ball is kicked. There is some truth to this. There will be group stage matches in 2026 where the result is not genuinely in doubt. There have always been such matches, even in the 32-team format, but the expanded field makes them more likely. However, the argument overstates the case against. The World Cup's history is defined not by mismatches but by upsets. In 2002, South Korea eliminated Germany and reached the semifinal. In 2010, Ghana came within a penalty of the last four. In 2014, Costa Rica topped a group containing Italy, England, and Uruguay. In 2022, Saudi Arabia beat Argentina, Japan beat Germany and Spain. More teams means more opportunity for those moments. The dark horse teams who can produce an upset, Norway, Japan, Morocco, Colombia, Turkey, are part of the field precisely because the expanded format allowed them to participate. And the round of 32, by keeping third-place teams alive, extends the period during which those upsets can occur. The strongest argument against the expanded format is not quality, it is time. 104 matches across 39 days is a genuinely enormous commitment for players, for broadcasters, for fans trying to follow a tournament from the other side of the world. The sheer scale of the 2026 World Cup is something that neither players nor audiences have experienced before. Whether that scale enhances the experience or overwhelms, it will only be answered by the tournament itself. What is not in question is that it represents the most significant change to the World Cup in a generation. And as 4 nations prepare for their first ever appearance at the tournament, as 16 African nations watch their players compete on the biggest stage in football history, and as Curaçao, population 156,000, walks out onto a pitch at a World Cup for the first time, the argument about quality feels considerably less important than the reality of what the expanded format has actually produced. Football, more of it, for more of the world. That is the 2026 World Cup, and whatever you think of the format, it has already begun. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to Everything About Football for more analysis, history, and debate. The beautiful game in all its depth.